Loveland is a city in Hamilton, Clermont, and Warren counties in the southwestern part of the U.S. state of Ohio. Considered part of the Greater Cincinnati area, Loveland is located near Exit 52 off Interstate 275, about 15 miles northeast of the Cincinnati city limits. It borders Symmes, Miami and Hamilton Townships and straddles the Little Miami River. The population was 12,081 at the 2010 census and was estimated at 12,326 in 2013. Once a busy railroad town, Loveland is now a major stop along the Little Miami Scenic Trail. Geography. According to the United States Census Bureau, the city has a total area of 5.00 square miles, of which 4.93 square miles is land and 0.07 square miles is water. The city is situated at an elevation of 597 feet above sea level. Loveland can be reached by car most easily via Interstate 275, but State Route 48 also serves the city. State Route 3/US Route 22 touches the northwestern corner of Loveland, and State Route 126 passes through Remington and Miamiville to the south. Loveland is located within 3 counties, Hamilton, Clermont and Warren. At least 61 Ohio cities cross county lines. Loveland has withdrawn from Symmes, Miami, and Hamilton Townships to form a coextensive set of paper townships each named Loveland Township. Historic downtown Loveland and the Central Business District lie in a small valley on opposite sides of the Little Miami Scenic River, the boundary between Hamilton and Clermont counties, whereas most of Loveland's residential areas are located on the hills surrounding the valley on either side. Loveland City Hall is located in Clermont County, whereas most of the population resides in Hamilton County. These areas include some neighborhoods from the 1950s and earlier, as well as a number of newer subdivisions built as part of the urban sprawl that saw nearby Mason grow tremendously. Unlike Mason and other suburbs closer to Interstate 71 and Interstate 75, Loveland is considered somewhat of a bedroom community, where residential neighborhoods seemingly outnumber businesses, and many residents make the half-hour commute to downtown Cincinnati for work each day. The 513 area code includes the entirety of Loveland. The 45,140 zip code also includes the entire city, with the exception of a few recently annexed businesses that belong to the 45,249 zip code. The United States Postal Service lists a number of place names as unacceptable for this zip code, including Murdoch and 20 Mile Stand. However, Loveland, Ohio is acceptable for Camp Denison's 45,111 zip code. The 45,108 FIPS 55 code and USXHT low code both correspond to the city proper. Government and services. Loveland uses a council-manager form of government. The Loveland City Council has 7 at-large seats, elected to 4-year terms in non-partisan elections held every 2 years. As of 2014, they are held by Mayor Linda Cox, Vice Mayor Mark Fitzgerald, and council members Pam Gross, Paulette Leeper, Ted Phelps, Angie Settle, and Robbie Gerber. Dave Kennedy is city manager. Traffic cases and other misdemeanors are heard in Loveland Mayor's Court, which is presided over by a magistrate. At the federal level, Loveland is located within Ohio's 1st and 2nd congressional districts. At the state level, it is also served by the 27th, 62nd, and 65th House districts, the 7th and 14th Senate districts, and the 1st and 12th Appellate Court districts. See Ohio House of Representatives and Ohio Senate for the current representatives of the respective state districts. According to the Loveland Code of Ordinances, the city's corporate seal consists of the coat of arms of the state engraved in the center and the words City of Loveland engraved around the edge. Loveland is protected by the Loveland Police Division and the Loveland Symmes Fire Department, a member of the Northeast Fire Collaborative. Dispatching for both is handled by Northeast Communications Center, which provides wireless enhanced 911 service and also activates the local network of tornado sirens. The city lies in the Little Miami Telephone Exchange, within Cincinnati Bell's ILEC coverage area. Loveland receives electric and natural gas services from Duke Energy Ohio, formerly Cincinnati Gas and Electric. Waste disposal and recycling services are provided by RUMP through the Southwest Ohio Regional Refuse Consortium. Loveland has water interconnectivity agreements with the city of Cincinnati and Clermont County. Loveland's Pogue Run wastewater treatment plant is part of Hamilton County's Greater Cincinnati Metropolitan Sewer District under a 1985 operating agreement. The city sought to end the agreement in 2008, due to district-wide rate increases, but was barred from leaving MSD by a court ruling affirmed by the U.S. Sixth Circuit Appeals Court. History: present-day Loveland originally lay at the edges of the Symmes Purchasing Virginia Military District, in what was then the Northwest Territory. The area was first settled in 1795 by Colonel Thomas Paxton. The city is named after James Loveland, who operated a general store and post office near the railroad tracks downtown. It was incorporated as a village on May 12 or 16, 1876, and incorporated as a chartered city in 1961. Village Getaway In its early days, Loveland was known as a resort town, with its summer homes for the wealthy, earning it the nickname Little Switzerland of the Miami Valley. Future Chief Justice Salmon P. Chase maintained a country home near Loveland, while the Cincinnati YWCA maintained a summer cottage there. The area was also home to Ohio's first paper mill, built in 1810 by John Smith. A local road retains the mill's eventual name, Kugler Mill. The area surrounding Loveland in Clermont County was well known for its peaches and strawberries. The Hillsborough and Cincinnati Railroad was chartered in 1846 to run a line between Hillsborough and Obannon Creek in Loveland on the Little Miami Railroad's route. By 1850, the H&C had completed the 37 miles to Hillsborough, Ohio. The H&C would lease its line in perpetuity to the Marietta and Cincinnati Railroad and ultimately became the main line of the Baltimore and Ohio Railroad. Loveland's location at the junction of the Little Miami Railroad and the Marietta and Cincinnati Railroad fueled the city's growth, bringing 40 passenger trains per day, and 12 scheduled freight trains between Loveland and Cincinnati. Another railroad ran through antebellum Loveland. The Underground Railroad's eastern route from Cincinnati included a stop at the village and continued northward to Waynesville and Lebanon. During the Civil War, Confederate Brigadier General John Hunt Morgan and his troops passed through Loveland, seizing possessions of Northern and Southern sympathizers alike. Until wagon bridges were built across the Little Miami River, settlement of Loveland was mostly confined to the Clermont County side, which had access to a railroad station. A wooden bridge spanned the river at Symmestown and Branch Hill from 1850 until it washed out 6 years later. For years, residents on both sides pushed for a bridge at Loveland, to avoid the long trip to Foster's Crossing or Miamiville, and by 1868 threatened to have Miami Township annexed to Hamilton County if Clermont County officials continued to obstruct the project. A $75,000 suspension bridge was finally built at Symmestown and Branch Hill and dedicated on July 4, 1871. It was anchored by 4 7,000-pound wrought iron columns, at that time the heaviest ever made in the United States. A second bridge, connecting East and West Loveland, was completed between 1872 and 1876. In 1876, the Cincinnati Campground at Loveland was the site of the Holiness Movement's 10th annual National Camp Meeting. In 1886, the skeleton of a mastodon and prehistoric stone tools were found in a Loveland gravel pit. In 1903, Loveland voted to become a dry village, prohibiting the sale of alcohol within the village limits 17 years before a national ban. Loveland was a center of the temperance movement in Ohio. Downtown Loveland's proximity to the Little Miami River has made it vulnerable to flooding. The worst such event, the Ohio flood of March 1913, destroyed a corn mill and washed out the Loveland Bridge, which was replaced with an iron bridge the next year. In the 1920s, the Cincinnati Enquirer ran a promotion that offered a free plot of land in Loveland, along the Little Miami River, after paying for a 1-year subscription to the Daily. The Loveland Castle was built on 2 such plots. During the 1930s, the nearby town of Branch Hill was home to the Arrowhead Club, a casino associated with the Cleveland Syndicate that served residents of Indian Hill. Growing city. After a population spike during the 1950s, Loveland reincorporated as a chartered city the first of only two in Clermont County on July 25, 1961, with George Anderson as its first mayor. The city absorbed smaller settlements, such as Paxton, O'Banionsville, and Symmestown. German architect Rudolf Nkel developed a master plan for Loveland. Another major flood in 1959 led to the construction of a dike along the Little Miami River in 1962–1963. The long-abandoned Little Miami Railroad corridor was converted into a bike trail in the 1980s and became part of the Little Miami Scenic Trail in 1984. Loveland has periodically sought to expand its borders by annexing surrounding areas, primarily to the more commercially active west. In 1993, the city attempted to annex parts of Deerfield Township, prompting petitions to instead merge the township with the city of Mason. Moves to merge Symmes Township with Loveland began the next year but ultimately failed. In 1996, Loveland moved its eastern border by purchasing Colonel Paxton's original White Pillars homestead, which had remained unincorporated, despite being the first settlements in the Loveland area. In the late 1990s, Loveland was designated a Tree City by the National Arbor Day Foundation, as it began a number of efforts to promote its historic downtown neighborhood, in part to celebrate the city's bicentennial. The programs included a renovation of historic downtown itself to sport a more gentrified look, for example replacing concrete sidewalks with brick ones, installing park benches throughout, and providing incentives to businesses willing to improve their four-section ADAs. Major roads such as South Lebanon Road were expanded and given landscaped medians. The Loveland Beautification Committee was established to sponsor various programs and events that aim to improve landscapes and other buildings around town. Under the mayorship of Lee Skierkiewicz, Loveland heavily promoted itself as a cycling destination. The Tour de Loveland, an annual cycling race, was started in order to promote the Loveland Bike Trail as the centerpiece of historic downtown Loveland. The city's efforts culminated with USA Cycling Elite National Championship criteriums in June 1998. On January 24, 2005, Loveland City Council voted to cancel the tour, due to declining attendance and a lack of sponsors. On April 9, 1999, Loveland found itself in the path of an F4 tornado. The tornado claimed 4 fatalities, including a Loveland resident, before reaching the city. With 4 blooms, Loveland won the 2005 America in Bloom competition for cities with 10,001 to 15,000 residents. Loveland lost to St. Ives Cubbies Bay in the 2006 Communities in Bloom International Challenge, medium category, but won the Communities in Bloom Youth Involvement Project Award. In 2004, CSX Transportation leased the former Baltimore and Ohio Railroad to Rail America's Indiana and Ohio Railway System. On May 4, 2007, Ohio's first 4-quadrant gate was installed at the 2nd Street Railroad crossing in Loveland, as part of a coordinated 3-crossing system. Zoning controversies. Loveland has seen several controversies over zoning regulation. After the city acquired the White Pillars property in 1996, it began plans to develop the land, which is situated on State Route 48. Prior to being elected councilman, Paul Elliott participated in a lawsuit against the city over attempting to rezone the property for commercial use without voter approval. In 2003, Mike Scholler led a successful referendum to block the rezoning. An earlier attempt to develop a YMCA location on a section of Phillips Park also failed, when a group of residents protested the city's development plans, prompting the YMCA to abandon the location. In December 2006, Loveland announced a plan to build a Loveland Recreation Center on land adjacent to Phillips Park. The city planned to enter into an operating agreement with the YMCA once the center was built. However, the Recreation Center tax referendum was defeated in May 2007. The Recreation Center plan was later revised, but Loveland residents again rejected an income tax levy to fund the center on November 6, 2007. Shooter's Supply, a local gun store, proposed building an indoor shooting range at the former location of the Matthew 25 Ministries humanitarian agency. Nearby residents attempted to block the shooting range, which would be built near several apartment complexes and residential neighborhoods, as well as a church. In May 2007, the building was instead converted into a boarding kennel. Demographics. In 1880, when the first census was taken of Loveland in Clermont County, the village had 595 residents, while the unincorporated Hamilton County community of West Loveland had 197. In 1890, Loveland grew to 761 residents in Clermont and Warren counties, while West Loveland's population increased to 392. 2010 census equals, as of the census of 2010, there were 12,081 people, 4,701 households, and 3,270 families residing in the city. The population density was 2,450.5 inhabitants per square mile. There were 4,961 housing units at an average density of 1,006.3 per square mile. The racial makeup of the city was 93.5% white, 2.1% African American, 0.1% Native American, 1.7% Asian, 0.1% Pacific Islander, 0.6% from other races, and 1.9% from two or more races. Hispanic or Latino of any race were 2.4% of the population, of whom 53% were of Mexican descent. There were 4,701 households, of which 38.3% had children under the age of 18 living with them, 52.5% were married couples living together, 13.4% had a female householder with no husband present, 3.7% had a male householder with no wife present, and 30.4% were non-families. 26.3% of all households were made up of individuals and 11.7% had someone living alone who was 65 years of age or older. The average household size was 2.55 and the average family size was 3.09. The median age in the city was 38 years. 27.9% of residents were under the age of 18. 6.7% were between the ages of 18 and 24. 25.6% were from 25 to 44. 27.2% were from 45 to 64. And 12.8% were 65 years of age or older. The gender makeup of the city was 47.9% male and 52.1% female. The median income for a household in the city was $68,801, and the median income for a family was $89,199. Males had median earnings of $70,262 versus $44,652 for females. The per capita income for the city was $32,024, while the unemployment rate was 5.4% for those age 16 or older. About 8.0% of families and 8.4% of the population were below the poverty line, including 11.2% of those under age 18 and 10.4% of those age 65 or over. According to 2002 data from the Internal Revenue Service, Loveland residents gave 2.60% of their net income to charity. Education. The city's main public school district, Loveland City School District, operated as separate Loveland East and Loveland West districts until 1926. Until 2009, Loveland High School was located in Symmes Township, just outside the city limits. The northern and southernmost parts of Loveland are served by Sycamore Community School District. Surrounding communities lie within the boundaries of Kings Local School District, Milford Exempted Village School District, and Little Miami Local School District. The city is also served by the Great Oaks Institute of Technology and Career Development, a regional vocational school district, as well as 3 county boards of MRDD. There are many private schools located near Loveland, including Cincinnati Hills Christian Academy, Archbishop Moeller High School, and Ursuline Academy at the secondary level, and St. Margaret of York School, St. Columban School, and Children's Meeting House Montessori School at the elementary level. At the 2000 census, 24.6% of Loveland children attended private or parochial schools, the 19th highest rate among Greater Cincinnati communities. The Public Library of Cincinnati and Hamilton County maintains a branch library in downtown Loveland, as well as a larger regional branch library in Symmes Township. The nearest branch of the Clermont County Public Library is in Milford. Warren County has no county-wide public library system, but the Mason Public Library is the nearest public library in the county. Culture and recreation. Biking along the Loveland Bike Trail and canoeing along the Little Miami River are popular activities during the summer. Loveland has a series of 16 city parks, including Neighborhood Tot Lots, Nisbet Park, a Veterans Memorial, and Fireman's Memorial. The parks are maintained by the City of Loveland Recreation Commission. The Loveland Bike Trail is a popular segment of the Little Miami Scenic Trail, a state park that runs through the city. From spring to fall, people canoe down the Little Miami River, departing from the livery at Loveland Canoe and Kayak. Loveland is included in the Dan Beard Council of the Boy Scouts of America, which operates the 506-acre Dan Beard Reservation Campground in Miamiville to the south. In the 1920s, Boy Scout troop leader Harry Andrews built the Loveland Castle on the banks of the Little Miami River. The Folly exists today as a museum. Another landmark, Shull's Crossing, is located nearby. The Gothic-style building, also known as the William Johnston House, is listed on the National Register of Historic Places. The Grail's National Headquarters and Retreat Center, known as Grailville, has been located just outside Loveland since 1944. Loveland's indoor attractions include Castle Skateland, a roller skating rink not to be confused with the museum, and the Loveland Stage Company, a theater group that started in 1979 and has performed at least 2 major productions each year since 1980. In October 2002, after several years of fundraising and renovations, the group moved into Christ Theatre, an old movie theatre donated by the Loveland Symmes Fire Department, which is stationed next door. The building had to be rebuilt after a fire gutted it on October 20, 2008. Until the late 1990s, the Baldwin Piano Company was headquartered in Loveland. July Fest, Symmes Fest, and local church festivals are held annually during the summer months. Fireworks displays by Rossie's Famous Fireworks of nearby Symmes Township are a staple at such events. The Loveland area offers a small collection of bars and restaurants including The Works, Paxton's Grill, La Rosa's Pizzeria, Cindy's Friendly Tavern, Kirby's, ZAPPZ, Tanner Bistro and Catering, and Julian's Deli. Although the city's unusual name came from the last name of the village store owner and postmaster, rather than the concept, Loveland has incorporated a love theme throughout the city. Loveland water towers and park signs sport the city's logo, a red heart inscribed with a sun, clouds, and the Little Miami River, and surrounded with the city's nickname, Sweetheart of Ohio. The Loveland Post Office, which began operations on October 24, 1831, as the Uppiansville Post Office, was also the site of the United States Postal Service's unveiling of a special love stamp in 1994. Each year since 1972, the Loveland Area Chamber of Commerce has run a special Valentine's Day program, which includes a poetry contest and the selection of a volunteer Valentine Lady. The Valentine Lady helps stamp up to 20,000 envelopes by hand with a Valentine-themed cachet and cancellation that reads "There is nothing in this world so sweet as love." The first Valentine Lady was Doris Pfister. As of 1992, Valentine's Day is the only day of the year when non-residents may reserve Loveland City Hall for marriage ceremonies, other than for senior citizens. In 2013, Loveland was named a Best Hometown by Ohio Magazine. Media. Loveland's local media consists of the Loveland Herald, a weekly newspaper published by the community press, the online periodical Loveland Magazine, which began publishing local news in 2004, and the monthly magazine Loveland Living. The Herald was called the Tri-County Press from 1901 until 1917, when it took its present name. Defunct newspapers include the Loveland Weekly Herald, the Loveland Enterprise, the Hustler, the Loveland News World, and the Loveland Record. Notable people. This list includes notable people who at some point lived in Loveland. See also, Loveland Frog, Loveland Park, Ohio. Further reading, Smith, William Ernest. Smith, Afia Delilah. History of Southwestern Ohio, The Miami Valleys 1. New York City, Lewis Historical Publishing Company. OCLC 807074. External links, Government and Local Organizations, City of Loveland, Loveland Symmes Fire Department, Loveland Police Department, Loveland City School District, Loveland Area Chamber of Commerce, Loveland Stage Company, Press, The Loveland Herald, Loveland Magazine, History, Greater Loveland Historical Society Museum, Historic Loveland on the Little Miami, 1870 and 1891 maps of Miami Township, including Loveland east of the Little Miami River, historical photographs taken in Loveland Ohio Memory, historical photographs of Loveland Greater Cincinnati Memory Project, Loveland, Ohio, 1984 on YouTube. References